hour is upon us, my friends. It is time for the Holy Hour, the All Cure podcast. Welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, yes, this is in fact a podcast devoted to the legendary alternative act, The Cure. If you are here for medical needs, remedies, or hoping that I have the solution to that rash that you've got, you might as well just go to the doctor, because I don't think this is going to help you too much. But if you're here just to listen to people talk about The Cure, have a seat. You're in the right spot. What we do here, if you're not familiar, is we tend to interview each other and our friends, and we talk about how we fell in love with The Cure and how that relationship has bloomed over the years or soured. Sometimes we share playlists. Sometimes we dissect a specific album. But something that we've wanted to do that we have yet to do is branch out more. As much as Donald and I love sharing our conversations and stories with our friends, with the world, we know that there's millions of Cure fans out there. I've seen you on the DVDs and the VHS tapes. I know that you're there. So it's not like you can hide. But what we want to do is branch it out. Hear your stories, your interviews with each other, your thoughts, even if they're just 10-second Cure thoughts. So in that process of branching out, through our Instagram account, The Holy Hour Podcast, we were lucky enough to have a first person reach out to us. And as a fellow named Tyler, 25, out of Martinez, California, about 30 miles inland from San Francisco. And he contacted us about being a guest, and we thought about different ways of doing it. We were like, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I really don't like call-in, like phone interviews or Skype interviews, because one person always sounds normal, and then the other person sounds like,
well, the thing is about Swish is one small step for man.
that kind of thing, and it gets really annoying. So we thought about me just plugging in the questions and then, doing it all Jar Jar style or something, and it was sounding a little weird. So what we're going to do is I sent Tyler a list of questions, and he was kind enough to dive in and read them and answer them. I think it went really well, and I think it's great just to hear a different perspective. As much as I hate to talk about age again, Tyler's about 15 years younger than me. I think although the core of Cure fandom and the love of specific albums is always going to be the same, I think there's always those little tweaks of people from different perspectives coming into it, and that's what makes The Cure so great, is because they've been around for so long, and so many people love them but have different eras and times that they've come in on things and different perspectives on things. I just think it's great, and the whole reason why we wanted to do this was just to hear the slight tweaks and variations of people's love of The Cure. All right, so let's just dive right into it. I'm very excited for you guys to hear what Tyler has to say. So without further ado, from Martinez, California, please welcome Tyler to the Holy Hour.
What is your Cure origin story? How and when did you first discover The Cure's music? It's when I was about 15, I had a friend named Jen. She and I are still friends now. And she introduced me to a lot of Japanese music, and one of those bands in particular, they're called Diran Grey. And about a year later, so 2006, they were doing their first full-scale U.S. tour, and they were touring on the Family Values tour with Korn. And I had a schoolmate named Tara who was very into Korn, and so we went to the show together, and from there I became interested in Korn to an extent. And the next year, early 2007, they came out with their MTV Unplugged album. And, Korn and being unplugged doesn't really go well together. And I remember listening to the CD the first time and just, not really feeling it at all. To the point where I like could not wait for it to end. And then they do a song, I think it's like Make Me Bad, and then they go into a medley of that, and In Between Days, and he brings out Robert Smith of The Cure, Jonathan Davis does, and at the time I knew of The Cure. I didn't really know them. I knew them as like the Friday I'm in Love band, the Boys Don't Cry band. I thought they were a pop band. And Robert Smith comes out, and Jonathan Davis is singing the Korn song, and then it segues into In Between Days, and Robert Smith starts singing, and I just remember, it was one of those moments where as soon as he started singing, I just knew that this was an important voice. Like, this was somebody who was going to be important. And so very shortly after that, I remember I bought their Greatest Hits CD, which was good. And then from there, I realized I really liked In Between Days. And so I remember getting The Head on the Door, as well as Pornography. And I think I got both of those for Christmas presents. I want to say they were Christmas presents in 2007. And I just remember listening to Pornography, and I had heard 100 Years before. We had like Comcast On Demand, and they have, they play music videos and stuff. And for whatever reason, one of the featured music videos, it was the performance of 100 Years from the band's Berlin DVD. And I remember, like 11:30 at night, or, like midnight or 1 a.m, just watching that and just trying to think of the best way to explain it. Because up until that point, I'd heard their greatest hits. I hadn't really gone into their back catalog. I still mainly knew them as a band that did pop songs. A Forest was kind of gloomy. Lullaby was gloomy. But the first time seeing them, performing 100 Years, and every Cure fan knows the opening line. It doesn't matter if we all die. And I just remember hearing that for the first time, and just like something resonated in me. And so I remember listening to the Pornography album all the way through, and I kind of thought it was going to be in the same vein of 100 Years. And as it goes on, A Short-Term Effect, The Hanging Garden, The Figurehead, Siamese Twins. Just as the album keeps going and going and going, and up to that point, like, the darkest music I had heard was probably Nine Inch Nails. And it, like, I couldn't comprehend it to the point where I had to re-listen to the album maybe 2 or 3 times. And then immediately after that, listening to The Head on the Door, because I already knew In Between Days and Close to Me. And Pornography is the token doom and gloom album by The Cure. And I think that The Head on the Door, for all of the pop sensibilities it has, I am also very adamant it is a dark pop album. Kyoto Song, A Night Like This, Sinking, even The Baby Screams. If you close your eyes, it's just, you have this immense space. It doesn't feel like the whole band is playing close together. It feels like they're very spaced out, at least to me. And immediately after that, I just knew that they were probably going to be my favorite band. Do you feel like the age you were at the time had a large influence on embracing The Cure? I think it did. I don't think it was necessarily my age so much as the predicament that kind of led me into discovering them. Reason being is that after listening to a good section of their discography, I went through my first really serious breakup, and there were 3 albums that I just kept on constant rotation as I was going through that breakup. Number 1 being The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails, and numbers 2 and 3 being Pornography and Disintegration. And so I relate a lot to those albums, and I think that part of that, it's because I did really just dive into those albums based on, this really emotional thing that was happening to me at the time. I don't necessarily think that my age had anything to do with it, though. Are the songs that initially attracted you to The Cure still among your favorites? Yes and no. I mean, In Between Days to me is, definitely in my top 3 Cure songs. I remember before getting the Greatest Hits CD, I had gone and downloaded that, and I had downloaded the song Never Enough. I remember at the time I really liked Never Enough, and now not so much. So not that one so much. Also remembering liking their self-titled album and 413 Dream a lot more when 413 Dream came out, so around like 2008. Not so much anymore. The Head on the Door and Pornography, to me, and Disintegration. I mean, everybody loves Disintegration, and it's really well revered. I mean, it's revered for a reason. Disintegration is Disintegration, but I think that Pornography and The Head on the Door, to me, those are kind of the 2 definitive Cure albums, at least for me. And those were the first 2 Cure albums that I listened to. I don't necessarily know if I would have the same connection with them that I do if I had listened to, 17 Seconds and Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me first, or, Faith and Wild Mood Swings. I'm not sure, but Pornography and The Head on the Door as a whole, I do still have a very strong connection to. Is there one song in particular that you have the strongest connection to? I don't really know if it's a connection, but I can really relate to the song Open. Which is funny because I'm not the biggest fan of Wish. I know that a lot of fans really like it, but I remember listening to Wish the first time, and Open came on, and it was just like fucking perfect. I personally don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I don't do any of that. And I have been to, you go to shows or you go to a party and you don't necessarily feel, pressured to do something, but, part of you still wants to. And I think that the song Open, just perfectly encapsulates that. That being said, though, I do think that my absolute favorite song of theirs is going to be Disintegration. Probably more so the version that's on Entreat than the version that's on the album Disintegration. The intro, I just think it has everything in that one song that just is, it just perfectly encapsulates who The Cure is and what The Cure is about. You have the long outro, you have the really strong bass lines, you have the really pretty keyboard part going on, you have the not quite jangly guitars, and then Robert starts singing, and I can't not listen to that song without feeling emotional. So the song I relate to the most is Open, but my favorite song is Disintegration. Do you have a favorite Cure album and or era of The Cure? My favorite Cure album is going to be Pornography. I mean, it is a really close contender with Disintegration, though. And I feel like, the reason why I've been talking so much about The Head on the Door and Pornography, and not so much Disintegration, is because, like I mentioned, Disintegration kind of is the... it's the Cure album, for better or worse. And, it's a really great album, and it deserves every bit of recognition that it's gotten. My favorite Cure album is Pornography, but I think, but funnily enough, I think that my favorite era of The Cure, just in terms of, like, the personnel, it's probably going to actually be, 1984 with The Top. I mean, the Top is just such a bizarre, amazing, underrated album. And, I really like The Top. And it's funny because I didn't like it at first. I didn't like it at first, and it took a long time for me to really like that album. But, now I would gladly put it in my top 5 Cure records. So, I mean, in terms of personnel and just, like, look and aesthetic, I think that The Top is my favorite. What is their weakest album, in your opinion? Definitely Three Imaginary Boys. I know a lot of people would probably say, Wild Mood Swings or The Top. For me, hands down, Three Imaginary Boys. I think that the first half of it is great, but then you have songs like Meat Hook and So What and Foxy Lady and It's Not You, and it's just, I mean, it's very obvious that Robert Smith was really young when those songs were written. I just cannot get into Three Imaginary Boys. It does have some great songs on it. Subway Song, 10:15 Saturday Night, the title track, Another Day, Accuracy, Grinding Halt. But you can't have an album where half of the songs are really good and half of the songs are really crap. And I think that, Three Imaginary Boys, unfortunately, half of it is crap. And a lot of people would probably disagree with me on that, but that's how I feel about it. Have you seen The Cure live? If so, describe that experience. I've only seen The Cure once so far. I saw them in 2011 on their Reflections tour. I had, like every Cure fan, I probably felt a little cheated that they were just doing the Reflections show in Sydney, and when they announced the shows in New York, London, and Los Angeles, I was ecstatic. And before then, I had only traveled down to LA, because going to LA from San Francisco, that's a good anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, depending on how fast you're driving. So I hadn't really traveled down to LA for many shows. I think I'd only gone down there to go to 2 shows by that point. But for The Cure, I did not care. And so the morning tickets went on sale. I ended up getting tickets for the second show. I got a ticket for me and my then girlfriend, now wife, Annie. And so the morning of the show, I'm going to say this was November 22nd, 2011. Morning of the show, we wake up, we take the rail into San Francisco, and we took the Greyhound bus down to LA, which was horrible. It was just so bad. And we got to LA, and we get to the Pantages Theater, which is where the show is at, and we sit down, and everyone's filing in, the show's about to start, and all of a sudden the lights go down, and out comes Jason, and then out comes Simon, and then out comes Robert. And when you buy a concert ticket, it doesn't matter who it's for, it doesn't matter who the venue is, there's always going to be some kind of service fee, unless you buy it from the venue directly. If you buy online, you're going to get a service fee. And in this particular instance, I feel like the service fee was just, a deposit that was required in order to be able to see Robert Smith's hair in person. He comes out and, he says hello, and he says, we're going to do something a little... no, my God, what did he say? He said, I decided that tonight would be a little bit different, and I didn't shave. And then they launch into Three Imaginary Boys, and finishes. Roger comes out, they do 17 seconds, that finishes. Lal comes out, and they do Faith. And 17 seconds up to that point had been an okay record. Faith up to that point had been a pretty good record. But seeing them do those songs live made me a much larger fan of those albums than I was. Especially songs like Play for Today, In Your House, Secrets, M, The Holy Hour, Other Voices, the song Faith. And I'd been waiting up to that point. I'd been waiting almost 5 years to see them. I'd almost seen them in 2008. I had a friend who had won a couple of tickets to see them in San Jose on their 2008 tour, and he had told me, yeah, we're going to the show, I'm going to take you to the show because you're my friend. And the day of the show, he decided that he wasn't going to take me. He took somebody else, and I was devastated. Didn't talk to him again, for good reason. And so, so finally, there's The Cure. There's this band that I've been listening to that's gotten me through almost every kind of emotional everything that you can imagine, and they're right there, and they're playing some of my favorite songs. And it was such an amazing experience. Getting there and back taking Greyhound, not so much fun, but the actual show, I would say it's the best concert that I've ever been to. I cried, realistically, maybe 3 or 4 times. Definitely during All Cats Are Grey, definitely during The Drowning Man, and I forget what the other 2 songs were, but it was such an emotional night for me. And during the Hanging Garden, I have a friend who is also a really big fan of The Cure named Jay, who wasn't able to make it to these shows, and I knew that he really loved the Pornography album, so I called him during the Hanging Garden, and apparently he was out with a group of friends at the time, and they all crowded around the phone to listen to Robert Smith singing the Hanging Garden. And Jay told me later that it just sounded like Robert Smith singing over like a cacophonous wall of static, but he said it was awesome. So that, it was an experience. I'm going to be seeing them 4 times in May. I'm going to all 3 of the Hollywood Bowl shows, and then I'll be seeing them back up here at the Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View. So I'll be seeing them 4 times in 5 days. And I couldn't be more excited for that. If you could time travel to any part of The Cure's history and see them play live, when would it be? God. It's a really tough question. Because there are a lot of songs that I would really like to see to see them play that they just don't anymore. Seeing them in 1982 because of Pornography, seeing them in 1985, or even 1984. You know what? Honestly, though, I think if I could see them play live at any time, it would probably be one of their shows for Blood Flowers. And the reason for that is because, I mean, first of all, Blood Flowers is a really good album. So, seeing them doing songs like Out of This World or Watching Me Fall, maybe someday, sing those songs live, that would be awesome. But the other reason being is that they played almost every really great darker song from their previous albums on that tour. Bits of the Disintegration album, bits of the Pornography album, songs like The Kiss and like Cockatoos from the Kiss Me album, songs like Sinking from The Head on the Door, The Drowning Man and All Cats Are Grey from Faith. So I think if I could see them live at any one time, it would probably have been one of their shows in 2000. I don't know which exact one, but one of them. I heard that they were all pretty good. If you could have The Cure play anywhere in the world for just you and a small group of friends, where would you choose? Definitely the Fillmore. The Fillmore is my absolute favorite venue I've ever been to. I haven't been there in a while, but it's just such a great venue. The sound is phenomenal. The mood is phenomenal. I would definitely choose the Fillmore. I'd love to see The Cure at the Fillmore. And they did play the Fillmore in 2000. So maybe I would have gone and seen their show at the Fillmore in 2000. Maybe that's the one I would have seen them at. Are you a musician, writer, or artist? If so, how directly has The Cure influenced your work? The Cure hasn't directly influenced my work. I am a musician. I do this industrial post-punk kind of thing called Violator. And while The Cure hasn't ever directly influenced my work, they very much indirectly influenced it in the sense of certain... I do like to create kind of a certain mood with my music. And indirectly, I think that the Faith album, at least in terms of instrumentation and how somber it is, that's probably the one album by The Cure that I think, if you listen to my music and you could compare it to one album by The Cure, it would probably be the Faith album. I have played covers of Cold, and I have played a cover of A Strange Day. I did the cover of A Strange Day for a Halloween show. Cold was in my really early live repertoire. I only ever did that one a couple of times. It didn't really work with the sound that I was going with for all my other songs. Because The Cure is a very organic band. They don't use anything like drum machines or heavy use of synthesizers, things like that, which is what I do. A Strange Day worked a little bit better, but I don't think that they've directly influenced my work. But I am definitely, sonically, I'm always going to be a little bit indebted to Robert Smith. do you think Robert Smith will ever put out an official solo album? I don't think he will. I don't think he has to. If he does, it's probably going to be one of those surprise releases that no one's going to expect. I think it's all talk. Looking back, every time The Cure does a major tour, he says, this is going to be the last tour. Every 3 or 4 years, he says, yeah, I have a solo album that I'm going to put out. And is he going to release it? Well, I mean, how many times has The Cure gone on a tour after he says that The Cure is not going to tour again? So, I don't think he's ever going to do it. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure he has a wealth of material that could be used on it. I don't think it's ever going to be released. I'd love for it to. I just don't think it's going to happen. What will be The Cure's legacy? What will be their lasting impression on the music world? That's a really difficult question. Because, going back to how I got into them, before I was a fan, I knew them as the Friday I'm in Love and the Boys Don't Cry band. So I think to a more casual fan, they're going to be the angsty, college radio band, up there with, like REM or the Smiths. But as a fan, they're the band that you relate to when you're the outsider. They're the band that you relate to when you either know that nothing is going to be okay or you need the reassurance that everything is going to be okay. They're, I don't want to sound cliche. The Cure literally has been the soundtrack for my life for almost the last 10 years. And there are those bands that, you listen to the album one too many times and you get sick of it. Or you hear the song one too many times and you don't want to hear that band again for a while. But that's never happened to me with The Cure. I'll go through periods where one album might resonate with me more than it did, or one doesn't resonate with me as much as it used to. But I can't ever say that there's been a day in the last 9 or 10 years where The Cure was not my favorite band. As for what their legacy is going to be as a whole, they're the longest enduring post-punk band. They're the longest enduring goth band. Bauhaus is gone. Susie and the Banshees is gone. Literally, and then, what other original post-punk bands are still left? Gang of Four. That's the Buzzcocks, Public Image Limited, but that's about it. I think that The Cure is going to be remembered as being a band that wasn't afraid to embrace its darker sensibilities as well as its more light and pop sensibilities. The Cure is a band that focuses on duality. You can't have the happiness without the sad. You can't have The Last Day of Summer without something like Why Can't I Be You? You can't have something like Anniversary without something like, Alt End. What's The Cure's legacy? The Cure's legacy, it's a band that was never content with making the same album twice. It's a band that was never afraid to shake things up by adding a member or letting a member go. They're a band that are an absolute pleasure to watch. They're a band to laugh to. They're a band to cry to. They're a band to, they're the emotional band. I'm not really sure what their legacy is going to be. I feel like I've given like 20 answers to this question, and none of them is the right answer, because The Cure is really indescribable, and I think that their legacy is going to be really indescribable. I mean, there's going to be a point where they don't exist anymore. Of course, there's going to be a point where Robert Smith permanently hangs it up. I hope it doesn't happen soon, but I mean, a band can only go so long. And I think that their legacy on the top surface, the pitchforks and the consequence of sounds and the NMEs are going to say, The Cure breaks up, or Robert Smith retires The Cure, and then in the little, mini headline it will say, like Boys Don't Cry and Just Like Heaven and Love Song and Friday I'm in Love. And I think that, on that surface, their legacy is going to be writing those fun, but at the same time, emotional pop songs. And I think that for the hardcore fans like you and me, The Cure's legacy means a lot more. Because The Cure's music, it's so far-reaching, and it's not just the music. It's the videos, it's the look, it's the other fans. It's letting you know it's alright to be different. And so I think for the hardcore fans, that's what the legacy is going to be. Yeah.
Tyler out of Martinez, California. Thank you again to Tyler for taking that time out to talk Cure with us. I love it. I can listen to people talk about the Cure forever. It's just like when you go to a party or you meet somebody new out of a group of friends and you realize you have that Cureness in common. Just hearing those stories and the thoughts on those same albums that have lived so long in your soul. I really love the way when he said, for the legacy there of how The Cure is a band that you can relate to when you know nothing is going to be okay and when you need reassurance that everything is going to be okay, and it really sums it up great. And I think a lot of people feel that way about The Cure. So thanks again, man, and I hope we aren't strangers anymore, so we can scratch you off the stranger list. We hope to get back in touch with Tyler. He's going to a lot of the shows on this tour that's coming up. It starts in May. It's just around the corner, so I'm hoping not only Tyler but everybody starts sharing all their Cure stories, especially from these live shows and the adventures that come with them. Speaking of live shows, got tickets for the Charlotte, North Carolina show. Donald's even going to join me, and Matt, the special guest of episode 13. So we're going to meet down there and see the Cure in Charlotte. And then the next night, I'm going to go with my lovely wife to see them in Atlanta. I can't wait. I've never seen the Cure 2 nights in a row. So this will be a new record for me. It'll be my show 9 and 10. But more importantly to the podcast, Donald and I are talking about trying to do some recording, at least some quick interviews at the Charlotte show. So if you think you're going to be at the Cure Charlotte show in June, hit us up. We'd love at least just a quick parking lot, Cure interview. We'll snip together our whole adventure going there and coming back, I'm sure, in our reviews afterwards. But it would be great to get some real quick thoughts from the fans at the show. So hit us up. My email again is Gavin, Gavin, Conner, Conner @gmail.com. But before we get to all the Cure business and contact info, I do want to wrap up with one more new feature, another voice from a stranger that I don't even feel like is a stranger already. We had write-in questions, so I'd like to wrap it up with a little Q&A style, and they are pertaining to the upcoming Cure shows from Melissa, and she wrote in, she'll be going to both shows too, I believe. So she sent in a few questions, and they're kind of based, going to a Cure show could be a little daunting if you've never been to one and you don't really know what to expect. So she had a few questions, and I'll throw them out there and try to do my best Dear Abby Cure style advice for these questions. First one was, what should you wear to a Cure show? What do I wear? What should her husband wear? I'm definitely a fan out of the two of us. What was your wife worn to past shows? And do you go all goth, or do you just wear your normal clothes, or somewhere in between? Do you have to dress up? I think is what she's getting at. And no, of course, there's so many Cure fans that will range from little kids to old geezers, and it being in Charlotte, I'm sure the cool factor will not be through the roof. As cool as all Cure fans are, I think there will be quite a lot of people that are just kind of your average dope standing around. But with that in mind, if there was ever a time to put on a little too much eye makeup, stick up your hair, and just fucking rock it, I think go for it. No one's gonna hold it against you. Maybe the person standing behind you if you've got 5-foot hair, but at a Cure show, I think even that could get overlooked, and everyone's just kind of cool to see each other and just happy to be there. I mean, for a band that gets labeled as this gloomy, mopey band, Cure fans really are the sweetest people in the world, and I think everyone will just be so damn giddy to be there that no one's really going to be concerned with what you're wearing. It will be hot summer in North Carolina in the middle of, Charlotte. Shorts are always a little dorky, in my opinion, but, I don't think Robert Smith's even got pictures of him wearing shorts for sound check. But notice he never wears them for the show, so I would just go with some normal pants. And if you want a safe color, can't go wrong with the color black at a Cure show. So anything black, pants, just be comfortable. You're going to be there a while. So just for comfort, that's a very Robert Smith way to go, I'd say. I might get some flack on this. I feel like wearing a Cure t-shirt is cool at a Cure show. I know that it has the rep, you don't wear the band t-shirt to the concert. Maybe that's true, but I think part of it, I love seeing past tour shirts, especially if you have an old tour shirt from one of their other tours. Somebody, especially I think the whole Cure t-shirt thing is an episode that we want to do just in itself. I don't know, everyone just loves their Cure shirts. It feels like that's a huge part of being a Cure fan, and you'll probably see some cool shirts. So if you have one, I say wear it. I would love to see weird and cool Cure shirts at a Cure show. But maybe I'm totally out of loop here, and it is dorky to wear the Cure shirt to the concert. But I don't know. I think that's a myth in my sneaky Cure opinion. I think even if somebody does go, "Oh, God, they're wearing a Cure shirt," I think in their heart they would be very thrilled to see another Cure t-shirt. That being said, I'm probably the last person on the planet that should give fashion advice, so take it as you will. But hopefully that helps. Question number 2, how early should we get to the venue? Melissa's a little worried that she got her tickets on StubHub and that they might be double sold, and that she probably paid way too much for them and is freaking out. So that's why she's going to the Charlotte show too, just to be safe. But plus she wants to see the Cure twice, I'm sure. But as far as getting, that's kind of 2 different questions. Well, 3 maybe. First off, you definitely paid way too much, because all of us did, even if you bought them on Ticketmaster or whatever. But it is the Cure. But yeah, we all paid way too much. But so don't worry about that. It's only money. Second part of the question, StubHub. I haven't bought them. I've never bought tickets through StubHub, so if anybody's listening and made it this far in the episode, would love some advice outside of myself for Melissa. I don't know. They always seemed a little shady that way too, but I was tempted a bunch of times. I'm assuming something out there. It's one of those things that just seems weird and easy to get paranoid about. But you're probably fine. I'm sure you're 90% chance you're fine, unless somebody else out there has some worries about it. But I think, it seems like it would be fine. I don't see how they could double scan something, or hopefully people don't have too many horror stories for you, but you're probably fine, and I don't even know if there's any real way to check. So you just have to get there. So maybe this is the third part of the question, how early. So for that reason alone, you should definitely get there with a good amount of time. But the thing is, too, this is like a big seated pavilion. All these are. So it's kind of the nice thing about these shows is, other than like standing in the line forever to get in or whatever, you really don't have to fight to get a spot or anything. Your seat is your seat, assuming you got your seat. But so you might want to give yourself, if you're on the lawn, that's a whole different story, or any kind of show with general admission. Of course, you got to get there and get down in the trenches, especially for a Cure show. But you'll be fine in your seat. I'd say, I mean, Twilight Sad is opening up for them, and they're awesome. So that's a good enough reason to get there, too. But they're supposed to probably, I think it said the show starts at 7. I haven't really looked at the details yet. I'd say at least an hour in advance. Plus, it just gives you time to chill out. But if you do have any problems with the ticket, you can bring it up on, and hopefully fight it enough to get in there in some form or another. But, yeah, so I'd say about an hour. But you really don't need too much time. I think you're probably going to want to calculate for traffic and parking and all that kind of thing more than anything show related as far as getting there early. And that probably goes for all these Cure shows. You probably really don't need to get there super early, because your seat is your seat. And assuming everything's cool with your ticket, you'll be fine there. I'd say get there early just so you can absorb the whole, day, and maybe not the whole day, but the whole the show experience. And track Donald and I down. We'll be trying to talk to people. So if nothing else, you can talk to us dorks running around with recorders. So hopefully that helps. I'd say at least an hour early, but you should be fine. Question 3. This one's more for her curiosity. She says, at the concert, do most people dance around and sing a lot? She likes to really just dig in and watch the band, and might feel a little self-conscious not sharing what the attitude of the general Cure crowd is like. I think you'll see, kind of like all of them, it's a wide, diverse crowd. You'll see people freaking out dancing. Somebody's going to be a little too drunk, and there's always one person that just takes it a little too far, but there'll be plenty of people just standing there completely still and absorbing every moment of it. So, and like I said, with the seated venue, you're going to have enough little space around you, or hopefully you're not getting somebody's wet hair slapping you in the face or anything, or leaning on you too much or anything like that. But yeah, again, just your comfort level. I don't think you have to worry about anybody judging you for dancing or not dancing or singing too loud. Probably phone etiquette would be a bigger concern. You don't want to be sticking your phone up in somebody's face, or flashing pictures the whole time or anything like that. So I think as far as watching the show, you don't have much to worry about. It's going to be so loud that you could even sing as out of pitch as you want along, and I think there'll be plenty of people singing along to every song, and people crying, people dancing, people just standing there. Plenty of spouses that are going, good God, when is this going to end? I'm on hour 2.5. But not us, right? We're all going to be loving every minute of it. So thank you for those questions, Melissa, and thanks for listening. And if you got any more stuff, I'd love to answer them here on the show. Feel free to also send in questions. Anybody else out there? Once again, the email is gavinconnor@gmail.com, or you can send us a message on Instagram, The Holy Hour Podcast on Instagram. iTunes, be sure to rate and rank us, write a review, rip it apart, praise it, whatever you want to do on iTunes. I want to make sure that works. Apparently you can't really leave a review through your phone on iTunes, so I guess you have to go to a computer or something. So I'll blame that for the reason why we've yet to get any full reviews on iTunes. But while you're there, subscribe so you don't miss any episode. We're trying to make this bi-weekly now, and we're sticking to it as of 2016. So we'll see you in 2 more weeks. We got some good interviews on the horizon, and hope to hear from you guys too. Feel free to get in touch And if you're not sure what approach you want to just record something, you want me to send you some questions like we did for Tyler, that'd be cool. If you want to write something and I can read it to you, or read it on your behalf, that would be great. So anything. So yeah, and check out the Facebook group page we have for the Holy Hour. So just go to Facebook and punch in the Holy Hour podcast, where we put up supplemental material for each episode. If you want to record a video even for that, we'll take video too, man. We'll take it all. We want to hear your Cure thoughts. The time has come, and we'll see you hopefully at the Charlotte and Atlanta show. Well, not the Atlanta one so much. I just want to hang out at that one. The Charlotte one. If you're in the area, come talk to Donald and I and Matt. Meet us. We'd love to say hi, and we'll watch the Cure show together and get our scoop. There's going to be a lot of talk about those two shows in particular. So we would love for you to be a part of it. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and drop us a message. That's gavinconnor@gmail.com. And until next time, this has been the Holy Hour. Special thanks to Tyler and Melissa. No longer strangers. So welcome to our Holy Hour family. And we welcome you and all your friends too. So thanks for listening. Until next time, talk hard.